When it comes to making these videos, I sometimes worry that I give off the impression that I think I know everything there is to know about film. Well, as you may have noticed yourself, this is far from the truth, which is why I started this channel, to be honest. I think this video and this whole channel stems from my decision to do the IMDb's Top 250 Movies challenge. I've always been interested in storytelling, but since about the age of 14, I've developed a particular interest in film. Although I love books, music, and other artistic media, film appeals more to me as an art form due to the impactful way it combines the sensory experiences of sound and sight, making it perfectly equipped for the transmission of a narrative. In 2013, as a result of my growing interest, I decided that I had to build up my film culture, and this IMDb challenge seemed as good of a start as any. Using Excel, I made a spreadsheet of the films that I hadn't seen yet, which consisted of 72% of the list, or 180 films. This added up to 22,685 minutes and amounted to 15 days, 18 hours, and 5 minutes spent watching films over a 3-year period. This was a significant amount of time to put into this. At the end of it, I was glad that I had completed the challenge because I did learn a certain number of things. I learnt about and got my first taste of film movements like German Expressionism, Italian Neorealism, French New Wave, and Dogma 95. I got exposed to the filmographies of filmmakers such as Sidney Lumet, Alfred Hitchcock, Francis Ford Coppola, Quentin Tarantino, and my personal favourite, Stanley Kubrick. I learned that James Stewart is my favourite Hollywood leading man, and why actresses such as Elizabeth Taylor or Audrey Hepburn are so iconic. I learned that films can be just as powerful when a script is heavily dialogue based, and conversely that a lot can be said without saying anything at all. I learned that sometimes the most impactful moments in film are those where something is implicit rather than explicit. I learned that you don't need to resort to jump scares to make a good horror film, nor cliched over-the-top moments to make an entertaining romantic comedy. I learned how much music can contribute to a scene, whether as an original score or an existing song. I learned that if done well, the special effects in a film can stand the test of time, and that if well paced, a 3-hour film can go by in a flash. I learned that the films I like best are the ones that challenge me emotionally, the ones that challenge me intellectually, and the ones that leave me feeling like a part of my soul was left behind when watching that film. I also learned where all these different references in Simpsons came from. As I've already said, this by no means made me an expert, but it was a good first step and one that I enjoyed immensely. It's funny to think that all these cherished experiences followed from an algorithm dependent on the opinions of the grand majority, and even though I don't necessarily agree with all these films holding a place in the top 250, I'm glad that I watched them. The only downside of doing this challenge was that at times I became almost obsessive to the point that I wasn't really watching a film but going through the motions to strike it off the list. So on some days I'd watch 2 or 3 films in a day without giving myself the time to think over what I had seen. Or sometimes I'd get distracted and I would end up rewinding a scene because I'd be confused as to what happened. All of this made me a passive viewer at times, particularly if I had my phone nearby, which was something I hated since it was counterproductive to my goals with this challenge. In fact, that is probably one of the only reasons I prefer the cinema experience, because you could just immerse yourself in the diegetic world projected on the screen. However, it dawned on me when reading different film articles or watching videos on YouTube that from being a passive viewer, I had missed out on the underlying meanings or implications of certain scenes of films that I had seen. And this was one of the main things that motivated me to make film reviews and video essays. I no longer wanted to be a passive viewer for films that I thought deserved not only my attention, but my engagement. I didn't want to simply enjoy films, but I wanted to scratch beneath the surface and dig deeper. I think that with any art, when you do more than consume it but ask questions of it and try to understand it by exploring its influences, its context, and its technique, you begin to appreciate it in an enduring and more satisfying way. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please subscribe, because everyone needs a break.